honored guests, friends, faculty, alumni, distinguished guests. On behalf of the College of Physical Activity and Sports Sciences, it's truly my honor and privilege to welcome you to the college's annual Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. Tonight we recognize another group of outstanding alums who dedicated their professional career to enhancing their various professions and America at large. The roll call is open. We'll begin the ceremonies. First, let me take a few minutes to recognize Provost Michelle Wheatley. Provost Wheatley, please stand and be recognized. Say thank you very much for your leadership and support. And in the back, Associate Provost C.B. Wilson, who is always a great friend of our college. C.B., thank you for joining us this evening. The roll call is now open. My pleasure to introduce our first inductee, Kevin Elko. Kevin Elko, please come in. Marissa Baccio, escorting Dr. Kevin Elko. Thank you, Marissa. Our next inductee, Mr. Paul Grace, escorted by Danielle Fontaine. Mr. Paul Grace. Unfortunately, our next inductee is unable to be with us this evening. Mr. Yuri Samurai. You'll hear more about him. He is a world distinguished historian, philosopher. Our next inductee, Elizabeth Majestic. We call her affectionately Beth. Please come on down, escorted by John Enright. Thank you, John. We only select one outstanding alumnus, the best of the best. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce to you Ms. Dolores Ware, escorted by Michael Roker. Dolores Ware, the outstanding alum for our college. Thank you, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, I truly have the privilege to work with an outstanding visiting committee. I want to say the best. Not the best, I don't know what second looks like. So I would please ask, with the college's visiting committee members, please stand and be recognized, and let's thank you for your service to this college and to this grateful state of West Virginia. Visiting committee members, please stand, and let's say thank you. I'd also ask, are there any previous visiting committee members? Please stand. Let's say thank you for your service in the past. Stand up. Thank you so much. I'd now like to invite Ferris Antoon to come forward, the chair of our visiting committee, to recognize the selection committee before we give the welcome from Provost Wheatley. So quickly, we change the order on you, we'll be right back.
It's very easy to be the chair of the visiting committee because I have such great people I'm working with. Tonight, our Hall of Fame selection subcommittee, would they please stand but hold your applause until we're finished. Peggy Bonson, the chair. J. William Douglas, George Henshaw, co-chair. Dee Ware, Mary Weichel. On the Outstanding Alumnus Subcommittee, Peggy Bonson, J. William Douglas, George Esper, Al Ware. I want to thank these people for their insight and professionalism in making their selections.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the words such as passion, enthusiasm, courage, scholar, practitioner, grants person, $21 million plus, my boss, my colleague, my friend of the college, Provost Wheatley, welcome address.
Well, you know who really is the boss in this room. There's the boss. Hey, I think they've already left the house, but I gotta tell you, one thing that you don't know about me is I absolutely love show tunes, and sitting here listening to Mary Wilson's quartet was just great, wasn't it? Particularly that Beatles rendition. Gotta clap loud, because I think she's already left the house. Okay, well, good evening to all of you. I am so very glad to be here tonight, and of course to be now in West Virginia as the new provost of West Virginia University. And first of all, I bring greetings from President Clements, who's at the other sporting event tonight. I have to tell you that President Clements himself is a very fit dude. He works out every morning, and he expects no less from all of his executive team. So if you're looking for role models on campus, I would say that we have a very, very good executive team now that really take time to take care of themselves and exercise and eat well and all the rest of that stuff. So we got to start somewhere. I've had an extraordinary day. Oops. And I just was about to set this thing moving. It's on wheels. Note to self, don't push. I've had an extraordinary day because I've actually begun and now will end the day with the same college and the same overall activity. And that's this college, and that's been a tremendous blessing. This morning, we spent about an hour with the visiting committee talking about the strategic plan and trying to gather input and good suggestions and ideas with the visiting committee. And now tonight, we have an evening of celebration when we honor the outstanding alumni from this college. And so it's interesting because I go from event to event to event, give many speeches in any one day. And so, you know, I get to kind of grade the events. And I would say that today, in fact, maybe even this week, this is definitely the A+. Oh, yeah. This event reeks of class. And one thing you'll learn about me, you know, I'm very old-fashioned and Victorian in some of the things I do and think, and I just love classy things. And so next year, when I start to filter through the events to figure out which repeats I'll do, I'm going to go with the high-graded class. So anyway, one of the other things I did today was another landmark at WVU, which was a convocation celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Health Sciences Center. And I was very struck by the paradox of all these events today, because on the one hand, we were recognizing the 50th anniversary of, you know, paying attention to sickness and illness among West Virginians, and believe me, we're extraordinary in that area. We've done some amazing things. But then sandwiched on either end of the day are these two great activities that really acknowledge all that we should be doing to get people moving in the more preventative sense. Actually having people take care of their physical well-being so that they really can sort of prevent, you know, it's like preventative health care. And one thing that I'm known for on campus is I much prefer to do proactive rather than reactive work. So I would consider this college to be really proactive. I mean, you're trying to keep West Virginians in good shape so that their health prognosis is much better. And it was interesting because as I was moving amongst the crowd tonight, one of the faculty members pulled me aside. We're very involved right now in strategic planning. And he said, well, you know, what place is there in the strategic plan for a smaller, more focused college like this? And I turned around and I said to him, how long have you got? I mean, it's these targeted colleges that have enormous potential in the years ahead, because when we look at West Virginia as a state, we see higher rates of many of the illnesses associated with lower socioeconomic groups living in poverty, high childhood obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and rolled in there, we've got very low educational attainment, poor economic development. And so I believe that the best years of this college lie ahead, because as we start to really consider Goal 5, which is to improve the health and well-being of the citizens of the state of West Virginia, I think that the college, CPASS College, will be really featuring prominently in some of the things that we can do in rural settings, reaching out to people, meeting them where they are. And so I really believe that this college has a very bright future. Of course, I know it's got a bright future because I've worked here now for 9 months, and of course, I'm very easily able to tell the functional from the dysfunctional families, and the really well-seasoned deans from the newbies. And Dana Brooks is, a very good dean. Actually, an extraordinary dean. I think he needs a round of applause. And you know what I like best about him? He comes into my office every time we meet, and he's upbeat, and he's positive, and he thinks the best about people. He really could be an inspirational speaker because he's truly a remarkable human being, and I've very much enjoyed working with him. I want to talk a little bit about our honorees tonight. I did take the time to read over your credentials, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Now, can I trust all of you? Like, with the churn that goes on at West Virginia University. There's a part of my brain that's very highly developed in math and all that good stuff, and I got a lot of, reasonable smarts, but I can't catch a ball.
We have people to help you.
Dana says that help is on its way. I mean, there are things that were really very difficult for me when I was young because, I didn't really have very good hand-eye coordination. Must have gotten extra math or something, I don't know. Anyway, I spent my life, of course, in the British educational system, and so we did some of those very traditional British sports, like girls played netball. And I don't know if you've ever seen netball. But when I first came, oh, good, somebody has. And in netball, as soon as you catch the ball, you stop. You can't move with the ball. So when I first came to the US and there was all this basketball fever, I'm like, well, why are they running with the ball? And then we played lacrosse, girls played lacrosse and field hockey. And so, my experience of being in this world is somewhat different than yours. But, I am somebody who believes very strongly in exercising and taking very good care of myself, because I think it's only when we have taken care of ourselves as human beings that we can really try and lead a life. And so I think that health and wellness is going to be a huge initiative in this next 10 years at WVU. We've actually got some large-scale programs planned for our students. I'm sure you've been following all of the discussion about Well WVU, because remember, the students are here for 4 years, hopefully, if they get out and graduate. And we have the opportunity to educate the whole person. It doesn't matter if they're an engineering student or they want to be a teacher. when they're here, we can actually try and educate them about taking better care of themselves, because they may be moving back into environments where, because of poverty and lack of education, they haven't been trained in the basics. So I believe that the next 10 years will be very good at WVU. I think we're going to have a large number of initiatives in wellness among our student body. And nowhere better will we look for help and guidance and practice-based research than this college. So I have very high expectations of this college. I know that Dana is a very strong proponent of research, which is what respectable universities pride themselves in doing. We're going to generate the knowledge about health and wellness and physical activity and sports science that will enable us to go out and apply that knowledge more broadly. So, as the new provost, living and moving here and being part of this community is overwhelming. Going to Mountaineer Field. I mean, I was a Gator, and I thought we did big football. So my first game, which I think was the Maryland game, because I was in Europe when we played Coastal Carolina, and here I am, I'm up there in the box, and I'm, watching this WVU first down, like, what are they doing? And then Hank Burnett, who's a very good friend of the university, actually said, oh, we teach this to children in 5th grade as part of the curriculum. So I know that there are certain aspects of this university in terms of athletics that are very strong for our institution. And all of our athletes graduate, or many of them do, and we're very proud of our athletic programs. But we don't want to be known just for athletics. We want to be known for the research that undergirds the success of athletic teams. And so this unit is really a very happening place for the next 10 years. Those of you who are being recognized tonight, and you have to forgive me, I've got to keep moving shortly after I finish my speech. I've read your biographies, and as I said, for somebody who can't catch a ball, I am so very impressed at all that you've done with your careers. And most importantly, as the new provost of the university, we are judged based on the caliber of the lives led by our alumni. And so anytime I read these just glowing bios of marvelous things that you have all done, what that does is it actually adds value to every degree that was granted from this college in the past. And of course, it will help us recruit the students of the future. So I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the upper administration and certainly on behalf of President Jim Clements, who's at the other event. That's not going to be as classy as this event. We congratulate each and every one of you. I also want to thank the visiting committee. They were so engaged this morning, and I know you all have extremely busy lives, and you've given up a day with your real day jobs to come back here to care enough about us that you care about our future. So I wish you all well, and I congratulate the honorees, and I'm very proud to be here, and I'll give it everything I've got. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. What a great boss. A fantastic job. Well, we'll now move to that part of our program where we begin the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. And we'll call Peggy to the podium, please. And then Ferris and I. Okay, you ready, man? Ferris, I'm going to come over here and join over here.
It's my pleasure and honor to be here this evening and to take part in the ceremony because we have such distinguished people to induct into our Hall of Fame. I hope you've taken time to read their bios and to note what they have done. You're going to get a little taste, too, from a little more personal perspective. But do take time, whether it's later this evening or some other time, to read what is in the program. But the first person to be inducted into our Hall of Fame this evening is Kevin Elko. And to introduce Kevin to us, I'd like to call Karen. Karen Elko, would you please come up?
I have a little help also, two other little people here. This is Jared, and this is Claire. It is a privilege to introduce my husband, Kevin Elko. He is the love of my life and a true inspiration. I am not alone in that he has inspired many. Joy, humor, goodwill, and above all, service to others permeate his life. He truly lives what he teaches and leads by example. I see it every day in his work and with our wonderful children, Claire and Jared.
Me and Jared want to thank Dad for coming to all our soccer games and being a great dad.
So without delay, here's Dr. Kevin Elko.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. That was wonderful. I was speaking in New York City one day, and the weather was terrible, and the rain was pouring, and I stayed at DoubleTree on Broadway. Speaking of Merrill Lynch, I got up and I walked out on Broadway, and every step I took, light bulbs were everywhere, so there was crunching going on. So I did my talk, but I had to go speak at University of Pittsburgh. That might be a bad word here. Medical Center that evening. So I went out to the airport noon, and he said, well, the plane's not going to get up. Weather's too bad, but there's a little prop plane going up over the other airport in a couple hours. You and this other gentleman need to go to Pittsburgh together. So I was going on. They took my ticket. This has only happened 3 times in my career. And they asked me this question as I walked on. How much do you weigh? I said, why do you ask? They said, we need to know how much fuel to put in the plane. I said, fill it up. Oh, I'm your problem solver. You got it. I sat on a seat, and this guy from New York asked me this question when I sat down. Do you think everybody on this plane told the truth about their weight? Well, I got off. That was it. I got a couple people who didn't get off my plane. I got a couple. First of all, these 3. My wife is one of the kindest, wonderful people. See, when I was young, I used to worship athletes, and I used to worship the callers. I don't know about you. I got a little bit older. I worship the kind. So I have that. I was down in Little Rock about a week ago. Somebody said, why'd you wait to get married? I said, I finally met somebody worth getting married. Plus, she was good looking. I ain't about to do ugly, so that was an issue. My little girl is one of the most alive people I know. She's fun, she's interesting, and my little boy, his guardian angel, will never get bored. Never get bored. This woman was born, a child was born, and they took the child over to the mother, and they was always holding her breath because the child was born without an arm. So the mother, they pulled back the blanket and looked at the arm missing and said, we're so glad you're here. You've got so much to teach us. They've taught me so much. So thank you. I wasn't going to do anything about athletes, but Mrs. Ware asked me to, so I'll just give you one short story about athletes, because I work a lot with athletes. This is the best story I've known through my years of working with athletes. I was getting ready to speak to the Dallas Cowboys. I was standing off the side with a little leprechaun-looking guy named Dave Campo. And a guy named Darren Hamburg walked up to me. Darren's in jail now. He said, Doc, I hated you. I've heard you 50 times here at Valley Ranch. I couldn't stand you, but I love you now. I said, why do you love me now? He said, Emmett Smith told me that I love you. I'm thinking, where was Emma when I was single? You know. I walked over to Emmett Smith. Best story I've learned. I said, Emmett, what are you doing? This guy competes against you. He said, I want him to get better, Doc. He's your backup. He said, what's that mean? I said, you compete with him. He said, I don't compete, I create. I don't believe in scarcity, I believe in abundance. I've learned this, there's two groups of people, here they come. Some people say, I will believe it when I see it. There's another group says, I will see it when I believe it. Two groups of people. One believes in vision, one believes in circumstance. That's the best one I got for you. And to me, you live in one or the other. I'm driving into Morgantown about a month ago. Has this ever happened to you? I pull onto campus, my heart starts to pound. I don't know why it's pounding. I had to speak down at Edward Jones downstate, so I decided to stay here. I figured it out. Morgantown's my altar. An altar is a place where you learn who you are and what you're to do. There's two important days. The day you're born, the day you realize why. This is my altar. You see, when you have one grandfather was a $1 a day coal miner, the other is a bootlegger, you need an altar. When your parents didn't graduate from high school, you need an altar. I wonder, did Moses ever go back to the burning bush where he took off the shoes? I wonder if Martin Luther King ever went back to the mall where he gave the speech, I have a dream. I know his life was cut too short, but Abraham Lincoln never go back to Gettysburg. Oh, now my life wasn't called like that life. Those lives were called. But Martin Luther King says, wherever you're called to do with all you got. But my altar wasn't brick, and my altar wasn't a bush. Let me tell you about my altar. I had a graduate class with a guy named Dana Brooks. And there was only two of us. It was me and David Diebel-Kowski. We used to sit in there and go, I like to be like that man. He didn't know it. We used to sit there and do that together. Can you see that? We had two people in that class. One day I got sick with the flu. I said, if I don't show up, half the class don't come. I had this friend, Dallas Branch. He used to lay this on me. We jogged every day. He laid this on me. He said, women marry men hoping no change. They don't. I didn't realize that I was a project. She failed. Men marry women. Men marry women hoping they'll stay the same. He was a good friend to me. Hey, I had this other professor. His name was Andy Ostro. I was proud to be a student. He taught me how to work. Listen to this phrase. You don't need a wishbone. You need a backbone. I had a professor named Dr. Carson. She loved kids. We would get in her room, and she would just have so much fun. We would work hard and have fun there all the time. Then I had this professor, Ed Jacobson. He's right here with me tonight. He's always with me. He said, live, you give. You live, you... That was the whole life. I say this prayer every morning. Please, don't bring blessings in my life. Today, let me be a blessing in someone's life. I'm at my altar. I didn't come down here today to watch all of you wonderful people honor me. I came down here and brought my babies and my wife to watch me honor you. It's good to be in my altar. I appreciate all the things that this place has done for me. Thanks for having me. It's good to be in Morgantown. God bless.
Forget your plaque. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. I don't know that we can all remember all of that, but you gave us many good words. Our next honoree is a man that took a different path. Paul Grace is going to be introduced by Dr. Chad Starkey. Dr. Starkey.
Good evening. In everybody's life, there are some indelible moments. My indelible moment came as a 6th grade student at 2nd Ward Grade School. That school, I believe, had been around for 20 to 30 years. And in the history of that school, I was the first student ever to strike out during kickball. Okay, let's face it, all you have to do is stand there, get hit by the ball, and you don't. I managed to strike out. My self-esteem was hurt, my self-image was hurt, and I had a student teacher come up to me, pull me aside, put his arm around me, and said, "Well, kid, usually in a situation like this, I'd say, don't worry about it, you still have your looks. But maybe you should find something else." Well, 16 years later, I 28-year-old assistant professor at Northeastern University, having gone from growing up in Morgantown, going to Athens, Ohio, to Boston, Massachusetts. That's quite a circuit there. With my first 2 or 3 months there, I will admit that I was feeling out of place, alone, and lost. As fate would have it, I met Mr. Paul Grace. Paul Grace was a legend in the field of athletic training. He's a legend in the world of certification, and I was just a peon. And I know that because he said, "Hi, I'm Paul Grace, a legend in athletic training," a legend in... At the time, it's safe to say that Paul was a little bit standoffish to people that he didn't know. But in eventually being able to talk to him, I explained to him that I was from Morgantown, I went to West Virginia, and I was a mountaineer. And it was that mountaineer bond that brought us together. Paul Grace is a legend in the field of athletic training. No man, no person has done more to develop the credentialing of athletic trainers than this gentleman sitting here before us. Those that came before him, those that came after him would stand up here and agree with me. Since moving on from credentialing of athletic trainers, he's gone on to he had to give me his business card because it's a long title. He's the president and CEO of the National Board of Certification in Occupational Therapy. He has also served as the president of NOCA, which is the accrediting agency for those that certify healthcare professionals. If any of you in the last 20 years have received healthcare services, this gentleman has helped you. During this process, Paul brought me under his wing, got me involved at the national level, and between him and Dr. Brooks here, who did teach me that it pays off to be a student, I found my way. The message here is that we are all tied together as mountaineers. Coach Catlett, I don't mean to call you out, but to most people in this country, you were the greatest coach in the history of West Virginia basketball. I don't view you that way. You and your wife took care of my grandmother during her final years on this earth, and I'll be forever indebted to you. And I would like to introduce you to that student teacher in 6th grade that took the time to say you need to find your way. My friend, Paul Grace.
Good evening. Dean Brooks, members of the visiting committee, friends of the school, thank you so much for this honor. It's always a pleasure to come back to Morgantown. One of the highlights of this trip was I saw Bobby Gwynn. Bobby, as you know, is Whitey Gwynn's son. And Whitey, to me, is a mentor, a leader, and a terrific friend. The last time I saw Bobby Gwynn was 1974 when Mr. and Mrs. Gwynn invited my wife Kathy and I over for Christmas dinner. There's no place to be, not to be, in Morgantown on Christmas Day in 1974 because there wasn't a darn place to buy even a Jean's hot dog. So it's a tough time, so we appreciate that. You know, West Virginia University afforded me and my classmates, and I think to the students today, an unbelievable opportunity. The tools, the resources, but most importantly, the faculty that really took the time to work with us, to lead us, and to really pose the question to us, how can we fail? You know, it's quite easy to talk about how you can be successful in life, but you really need to think about how you can fail in life. And failing in life is probably predicated on the fact that you don't take enough time to think about those things that can be risk events in your life that could really bring down the house. And I must say, from Bill Douglas to John Seaman and Pat Talk and those individuals, Charity White, God bless her, the kinesiologist, Wincy Ann Carruth, and nothing was more enjoyable on a Friday afternoon, Friday morning, standing in the Coliseum and watching Charity White put football players through drills on how to receive the football and explain to them why they fumbled the next day. Working with Whitey Gwynn was a true experience. Those of you who know Whitey know what I'm talking about. He was really a Renaissance man in a lot of ways. What he did, his whole approach to the treatment of athletes and the care and the science he brought to it was ahead of his time. As a graduate student, one of my jobs was to grade Whitey's test, PE 121. The first part of those examinations were Whitey's jokes. Now, those of you who know Whitey, at that time, this was pre-Title IX, so you can imagine the scope of the jokes. And Whitey's jokes were fill in the blank. And he got particular pleasure on watching the football players not be able to answer his jokes. So I said to him, I said, Whitey, how could we fail someone because they didn't get your jokes right? He says, they'll listen better next time. But be that as it may, West Virginia is the type of place that, and we've all experienced that you're on that bus for the last time. You just had a great game, or that plane ride home. It's the last time you'll all be together, and you never want the trip to end. You don't want that bus to come to the Mountaineer Field or the Coliseum. And that's how I feel about my time here at West Virginia. And this recognition, I know now the bus trip will never end. There are a few people, though, here with me tonight that I'd like to recognize because they've been so important in my life. The first person I'd like to recognize I've known for 36 years. His name is Bobby Barton. Bobby was the head athletic trainer at Eastern Kentucky University for a number of years. He's the former president of the National Athletic Trainers Association. But he has very strong ties to the state of West Virginia. Bobby was an athletic trainer at Marshall University. He left Marshall a few months before that tragedy had hit their football team. He was working then at the University of Florida. He was brought back by the Marshall administration to help identify the remains of those athletes. And I can't tell you the discussions we've had about that and what an unbelievable set of weeks that he went through in helping the Marshall families begin their process of grieving. But Bobby also, as I said, was the president of the NATA. It was during his tenure that I was afforded the opportunity to become chair of the Board of Certification and begin my career in athletic training. This university has a terrific athletic training program, and many of our students who graduate from here receive scholarships to go on to graduate school or fund their undergraduate education. And Jack Weekly from Johnson & Johnson Sports Medicine has been a primary driver in helping fund student scholarships across the United States, as well as really advancing the cause of athletic training. And you know Chad Starkey, who introduced me. Well, Chad is very modest. Chad has taken it upon and led the entire revival of athletic training education and across the United States, which now has begun, which really, truly has been recognized as an allied health profession. Joining us tonight here with me is my son Tim, who graduated from the business school in 1997, and there's not a more loyal mountaineer in Massachusetts than my son Timothy. My brother Chuck's here from New Jersey, and last but not least, my wife Kathy, who one day was working on Wall Street for Irving Trust Company, and 3 days later, she's working for the Bank of West Virginia on High Street. That's what marriage will do to you. Thank you so much, and thank you again.
Thank you very much, Paul. Our next inductee is a lady who's made her way all the way to Atlanta from here. And she's going to be introduced by Steve Cahill. Please tell us about Elizabeth, please.
Thank you very much. Nice to see everybody. As you've just heard, my name is Steve Cahill. I'm Elizabeth's husband. But enough about me. Let's go on and talk about Elizabeth. I'm going to jump the tracks a little bit in that Elizabeth's career has been in public health. While she started here, her career has been in public health. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what she did because it may be somewhat unfamiliar. So things got rolling for Elizabeth when she was recruited by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. Within 9 months, at the age of 26, she was asked to join management as the chief of a key section in the Division of Adolescent and School Health. To give you some perspective on this, CDC is an agency that's primarily populated by mid to late career professionals. Joining CDC is usually a capstone to a career, not a beginning. A typical time for these accomplished folks to wait to get into management is a decade or more. So this was rather stunning that after less than 9 months of joining CDC at 26, she wasn't asked to apply, she was asked to take a management position. 3 years later, she was asked to be the deputy director of the Office of Smoking and Health. This is the nation's leader and focal point for all tobacco issues during a critical period of challenge and growth for our nation. She directed this organization through an increase in the budget from $3 to $100 million. Staff changed from 25 to 100, increasing the number of grants from 60 to 50. Another 3 years passed, and Elizabeth is asked to become the Associate Director for Policy, Evaluation, and Legislation at the center level. So before she was working for divisions. Now she's working at the center level, which has those divisions underneath it. To give you some perspective again, so now the center has close to 1,500 staff and a budget of almost $1 billion. It's the national focal point for chronic disease. So underneath this is the national responsibility for providing leadership in cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, and the division she'd already worked in, adolescent and school health, and the Office of Smoking and Health. Only a year later, her rare blend of strategic thinking and leadership led to her being asked to join, to go to Washington to become the Special Assistant to the Deputy Chief of Staff of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So Health and Human Services is the umbrella organization that has a few agencies in it you might recognize: the CDC, National Institutes of Health, FDA, Medicare, Medicaid, just a few small agencies. And once there, things moved fast, at least for Elizabeth. Before a single year had passed, she had already become both the acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for Health and the acting Director of the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion for HHS. In those roles, she advised the Secretary of Health and Human Services on all matters pertaining to disease prevention and health promotion in the United States and overseas, chaired a government-wide committee to assess grant programs that address nutrition, physical activity, tobacco use, diabetes, and prepared a report of findings for the President, created a $125 million program for states and communities called Steps to a Healthier U.S., and served on the U.S. delegation to the 2003 World Health Assembly in Geneva. After 3 years in Washington, Elizabeth returned to CDC. She's currently on sabbatical, working with Georgia State University, where she's up to making her usual significant contributions. But to really understand the reach of these accomplishments, to really understand her story, you have to understand how it started. In high school, her not so perceptive high school principal told her that she was definitely not college material and she would be lucky to graduate from high school and get a job. Of course, this was the same not so perceptive man who told Sam Huff and Pat White that they couldn't play football, and Rich Rodriguez that loyalty was his strength. Okay, so maybe I made up that last part. As you may have gathered, Elizabeth exceeded those expectations. She did actually graduate from high school. She got her BS from WVU. She went on to earn an MPH and an MS from Indiana University, and she's been a senior executive fellow at the Harvard John F. Kennedy School of Government. As I have shared, although she is still young, she's already had a career's worth of accomplishments. It's worth noting that every single effort throughout her entire career has been in service of others. It's been an expression of her caring and compassion. With that as an introduction, I give you Elizabeth Majestic.
Thank you, sweetie. You know, I think this is better than any Olympic gold medal, don't you think? Definitely better than any Olympic gold medal. Thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you very much. I also want to start off by thanking the other awardees, especially Dee Ware, who has done so much for the school, the college, sorry. I attended it when it was a school. I know it's a college, and that's an accomplishment in and of itself, but Dee's played such an important role in that, so I really want to single her out for her efforts. I also want to say that, you know, I've had a very fast-paced career, and I've been a recipient of numerous awards, but this one means a lot to me. And one of the reasons it does is because of this man over here. I didn't think I was going to cry when I got this award. Normally I don't. But when I came to West Virginia University, it's very rare, and I work with a lot of academic institutions in my current role. It's very rare as an undergraduate to have the kind of personal attention that I got when I came to this university. I knew the faculty. I knew the women's basketball coach, Kitty Blakemore, tennis coach, Martha Thorne, who it's been so nice to see them here this evening, and Valerie in the back, who's now chairperson in the college. So these people have stayed with me from the time that I started here throughout my career, and that is very rare, and it really speaks volumes, I think, of this institution. The other thing that I would say also is that while this award has been given to me, it's really a reflection of all of the people who've enriched my life over the course of my career. So many people have played a role in this, my husband, Steve namely, but so many people who have touched my lives, the people who I serve, the nation's health. When you go out and you visit communities, I spent the last week in Pennsylvania, crisscrossing from Harrisburg to Philadelphia, back to Pittsburgh, meeting with the senior officials of the state health department there. And when you get out into the communities and you see the need, and you see the issues that we're facing with obesity and chronic disease, I think we ought to put the provost out on the road, Dana. She's a great spokesperson for chronic disease prevention, I'll tell you. But these are some very serious issues, and so it's really been an honor to be able to serve the American people in this way, and it's been really wonderful to have West Virginia University to be a part of that for me. So thank you very much for this award.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and congratulations again to each and every one of you. Your remarks are so enlightening and so touching. Our last awardee could not be with us this evening, and if you take time to read his biography, you'll understand why. But I'd like to tell you about him anyway. He's a very, very special man and a very special graduate of our college. It's Uriel Cimarai, and it is my privilege to tell you about him this evening. Uriel Cimarai received his bachelor's degree in physical education from City College of New York and earned his master's and doctorate degree in physical education from WVU. He is currently retired after having lectured at Wingate Institution of Physical Education and Sports for more than 30 years. He now conducts research at the Institute, which is the only physical education campus in the Middle East. Cimarai was born in Vienna, Austria in 1925. He and his family moved to Palestine in 1934. Where he went to school. He served in the Haganah Military Defense Group during World War II and later in the Israel Defense Forces until he was released in 1944 to study physical education, teacher education. After 1 year, he graduated and began to teach. After serving in the military again for 18 months, he returned to teaching. He was asked to serve as a translator for one of the early American pro basketball players and coach, Nate Holman, who was visiting Israel. Upon his return to the United States, Holman offered Cimarai a scholarship to City College of New York, where he completed his bachelor's degree in 18 months. From 1954 until 1962, Cimarai served as international basketball referee, participating in more than 50 international games on all continents, and was the first ever Israeli selected to officiate in the Olympic Games as a basketball referee at the 1956 Melbourne Games. A few years later, He served as the director of a course for physical education educators for developing countries. Upon receiving a recommendation, he attended WVU on scholarship and completed his master's and doctorate degrees within 2 years. Simarai is the first executive director of the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame and is recognized as one of the premier authorities and educators in physical education and culture. Simarai is the author of more than 20 books and 142 articles. He's an international lecturer and governmental advisor. He was advisor to the governor of Singapore. He has served as president of the Society of the History of PT and Sports in Asia and secretary-treasurer of the International Society for the Comparative Physical Education for Comparative Physical Education and Sports. He resides in Rishon Aron, Israel, with his wife. They have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. I think you understand now why we have selected him for the Hall of Fame. And he is quite a man. Unfortunately, at his age, he felt he could not make the trip here, and his family could not make it. But we felt that that he is indeed worthy of being in our Hall of Fame. We do honor him for being a graduate of our school, and we are very, very proud that he is now a member of our Hall of Fame. And so he has just been inducted into our Hall of Fame. And now for our outstanding alumni. And I'd like to have Gail Catlett come and present Dee Ware to us.
Something else. I didn't know that was the case. Good evening. It's nice to be here. Congratulations to the Hall of Fame inductees. What a fantastic group. Congratulations, Elizabeth, Paul, Kevin. When I got a tip that Dee Ware was going to be the alumnus of the year, I called her on the phone to congratulate her, but also said that I would like to introduce her. And she said, Coach, I've had many people call me. And she said, you're a little bit late. She said, I've had a former president of the university, several deans. Al has a contact in New York City with the Dave Letterman show and Dave Letterman. My 2 sons, I knew I had a problem. So I slept on it overnight, and the next day, I called Al. And I said, Al, you owe me a favor. I went into it. First 15 minutes, I didn't make much headway. But then I said, I'm thinking about coming back as a coach. And I knew Al always wanted to be a coach. And I always wanted to be in fiber optics. I said, I will make you my associate head coach if you get me this gig. Well, later on that day, he called and said, you're in. So that's how I got here. I didn't tell Al that they're going to start the golf team this spring. I'm going to apply for the golf coach. And he's going to be my associate head coach. So bring your sticks. We're going to net a pond every day, okay? It is a distinct pleasure to make some comments about Dee Ware. She was born on June 23rd, before 1950, in Morgantown, West Virginia, as the eldest daughter of Charles Martin Jamison and Gladys Iona Zierle. Her Jamison family roots in Montague County, West Virginia, run deep. Dee graduated from Morgantown High School, where she was active in chorus, junior orchestras, thespians, and band. She was the drum major for the band in 1947 and 1948 when Morgantown High was named the championship high school band in West Virginia. She earned a bachelor's degree from the School of Physical Education at WVU in 1952, where she began taking modern dance seriously as a member of the orchestra's dance honorary. She was also a member of the Dolphin Swim honorary. Upon early graduation in 1952, she joined the WVU faculty as an instructor for one semester at the request of Dean Grace Griffin. She taught modern dance along with the other dance programs and was the advisor to orchestras. During her career, she taught in the public schools in West Virginia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. Annis told me not to do this, Dee, but she was the president of Chi Omega Sorority, Theta chapter here at the university. Annis was a DG, so rough time when I get home. In 1952, she married Al Ware. He was a 50-52 graduate and native of Greenbrier County. They met on April the 19th, 1948, and dated during their college years. They were married in Morgantown at the Baptist Church on High Street by the late Joe Gluck, who had served as a camp counselor at Jackson's Mill in 1938 when Al was there as a 4-H camper. Joe served as a Navy chaplain in World War II. Several of Al's friends have told me they question to this day the legality of this marriage because maybe Joe didn't have a license. The Wares have two sons, Brent Jameson Ware, born on February the 20th, 1956, and Scott Kendall Ware, born February the 5th, 1958. Brent and his wife Judy have 4 children. Scott and his wife Sharon have 5 children. Both sons, Brent and Scott, along with their families, live in Franklin, Tennessee. Dee and Al live with their 2 sons in many cities in the United States, as well as 5 years in Tokyo, where she was active in the College Women's Association and St. Albans Episcopal Church, devoting visitation time and funds to the retired Japanese minister's widow's home and the church's outreach to the Japanese leper colony. In Tokyo, she served as the chair of the annual ball of the American School in Japan. As a member of the Asiatic Society, she was active in Nadeshiko Kai. No, it's Nadeshiko. How do you pronounce it, Al? Oh, okay, that's what we did. Kai. Joint cultural group of Japanese and foreign women organized shortly after World War II for the express goal of educating women about Japanese history, culture, and teaching the members various social customs and traditions of countries from around the world. The organization was at any given time about 80 members, was founded by Mrs. Toshi Inamoto, wife of World War II Japanese Admiral Takiki Inamoto. She has continued her membership with most activities in New York City and Tokyo until the present time. Several of my friends said that she was identified visiting Ginza Michikoshi department store, which is one of the most prestigious shopping areas in Japan and maybe the world. She was a regular visitor. From 1980 to 1990, Dee served with the managing director of the Color Association of the United States, and her offices were located in Manhattan and New York City. The Fashion Industry Association is considered to be the most prestigious color fashion consultant and color forecast groups in the world. They forecast fashion colors to the women's, men's, children's, interiors, accessories, and the automotive industries. During the same time frame, she owned an art gallery in Princeton, New Jersey, specializing in Japanese wood block prints. She and her husband founded Amherst International Incorporated in 1977. The firm was originally dedicated to international business, primarily trading in and out of mainland China and Italy. The firm moved into the fiber optics business several years later at Amherst as Amherst Fiber Optics, manufacturing and selling products for the installation of fiber optic lines. Both of their sons were key executives in the move forward in the fiber optics business. Brent and Scott became part of the company, and the corporation was sold in the year 2000. And he didn't even check with me first. Dee served on the Amherst Board of Directors in Venice, Florida, YMCA Board of Directors, Manatee County Community College, Florida Board, as a member of the WVU College of Physical Activities and Sports Sciences Visiting Committee, Chairman, Blaney House, WVU President's House Visiting Committee, Chairman. She was inducted into the WVU Physical Education Hall of Fame in 2003. I had the privilege of serving with Dee on one of the visiting committees, and I found her to be thorough. I thought she was inquisitive. I thought she had great vision. She had a unique fondness for CPASS. She talked the talk, and then she walked the walk. And it was a pleasure being with her. The Wares and the Ware Family Foundation have supported West Virginia University for many years and are members of the Woodburn Circle Society. Dee, along with her husband, has been a leader and benefactor in the development of WVU Stansbury Hall Fitness and Wellness Center. The family has also positioned their educational efforts toward programs promoting lifelong fitness, particularly for the young people throughout West Virginia. Needless to say, we are very fortunate. They remain dedicated and loyal to WVU, Morgantown, and the state of West Virginia. Dee is a Christian and has been a member of the Venice Assembly of God Church in Venice, Florida since 1990. She served as superintendent of the Sunday school at the new Canaan Court St. Mark's Episcopal Church and a lay leader of St. Mark's, Tokyo. When in Morgantown, she is active in the Wesley Methodist Church. Dee has two brothers, John Jamison of Morgantown, Harold Jamison, New Holland, Pennsylvania, one sister, Sylvia Jamison Rhodes of Martinsburg. She has 5 nieces and 2 nephews. The Wares reside in Nokomis, Florida, about 15 miles below Sarasota. Is that correct? Yeah? I didn't know where it was. I know it's close to Venice. Franklin, Tennessee, and Morgantown, West Virginia. I applaud the selection committee on this well-deserved choice. And now I give you the 2010 Outstanding Alumnus of the West Virginia University College of Physical Activities and Sports Scientists, my good friend, Dee Ware.
I never knew that Gail Catlett was a stand-up comedian until tonight. There were a few gotchas in there and a few glitches. But thank you. Thank you for this honor. I feel that this honor is not given to me as a personal tribute, but rather to the projects and the goals and the efforts directed toward improving the childhood obesity in West Virginia. This honor is really mine only in trust. Let me remind you that we have a health tragedy in this state, and indeed the whole nation. It's called obesity, and the only cure is to eat healthy and exercise. The problem must be addressed with the ongoing programs and the actions that go to the root causes. Childhood obesity has tripled since 1980. That year, not a single state had an obesity level above 20%. West Virginia now ranks number 4 at 31.3%. very close to the worst in the United States. Only Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee hold a higher spot on this addictive scale. Here, I need to share a bit of history. When Dr. Linda Carson was named the first Ware Distinguished Professor in our college in 2002, she was already on site, leading the revolution against this growing problem. She had the Motor Development Center that was already taking shape with a clear mission that said, only education and exercise can stop the downward spiral. Choosy, a cartoon character of Choosy Kids Club fame, had the children and their parents in Emore Hall running and climbing and swimming and having fun. Toddler skills, kinder skills, and future fit skills. Then, I am moving, I am learning, became the battle cry. Linda, with her very public success, caused the West Virginia State Insurance Carrier, PEIA, to join her fight, as did the DDR game folks. Thus, the Dance, Dance, Dance revolution, one that reached 726 public schools and all 55 counties, and all 12 Head Start regions throughout the United States. Our history lesson must also include the Stansberry Hall Fitness and Wellness Center and the terrific leadership and creative energy of the director, Nancy Natter-Nicola. She made assessments and evaluations as a must part of the exercise plan. Practice teaching is also on her agenda. She trains physical trainers and then oversees their practice teaching. Following Linda, we are so fortunate to have Dr. Eloise Elliott named as the second Ware Distinguished Professor. She too continues our passion to fight the out-of-control obesity problem. She has created fresh, exciting programs that bring young people and their families into active, life-changing nutritional experiences, such as Camp New You. Al and I attended the first annual physical activity 2-day symposium held in Charleston this past June. Over 250 concerned attendees from our state and across the nation, all learning new ways to attack this epidemic. Led by Gail Manchin and the governor, and organized and directed by Dr. Elliott, we heard nationally prominent speakers present new thinking, new tools and ways to encourage physical activity. Reversing this trend is at a critical stage. We must get involved. We must help the present generation and prevent the next generation from this chronic, costly condition. This is costing our state and our country billions of dollars, not only in health costs, but economic development and growth in the workplace. Mothers, fathers, families must learn what to eat and take physical activity seriously. Sedentary children become lethargic, and lethargic adults become less productive citizens. We need one-on-one involvement, starting with you and me. Now, I want you to meet Nancy Natter-Nicola, the director of Stansberry Hall Fitness and Wellness Center. and Dr. Linda Carson, the first Ware Distinguished Professor, now retired from the WVU, but very much immersed in her new business and with her best friend, Chuzi. Dr. Elliott, the current Distinguished Professor, is doing wonderful things, and she's working very closely with Gail Manchin and with hopefully the governor and maybe the legislature, and she's working on many things, hoping to attract the serious interest that we need from them. The passion of these three educators in fighting to improve the health of all West Virginians and stopping the spread of child obesity, they are the reason that I am accepting this award tonight. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the class of 2010 Hall of Fame inductees. Let's stand, please, one more time, inductees, and say congratulations, inducting class 2010. A special note to each of the inductees. I think Beth used the word, you have enriched my life. No, no. Each and every one of you have enriched my life, and I cherish your friendship. Kevin, yes, I remember you and David in the class together. I enjoyed those comments and learning together. And more importantly, I learned to cherish your passion, your love, and your enthusiasm. Ladies and gentlemen, when I called Kevin Elko and said you were going into our Hall of Fame, he was going to give a speech. I believe it was the first time Kevin was speechless when he received that note. So Kevin, thank you for all you do, continue to do, particularly giving back to our sport and exercise psychology program. Thank you for your lecture today as well. Kevin, thank you. Yay. Paul, our trips to Washington, D.C., the museums, the alumni functions, your contribution to athletic training is truly legendary. I want to thank you for your time on the visiting committee, for your insights, your consultation, and more importantly, your friendship. And we hopefully someday will welcome you back to the visiting committee to share your expertise with us again. That is a promise, as long as the president supports it. Put that in there. But thank you, Paul, for all you're doing. And Chad, I want to thank you. Chad, yes. Because Chad is truly leading the charge in athletic training curriculum. I had the privilege to serve on the athletic training task force. And then we had to talk with Chad, begin to learn more about athletic training and physical therapy and how they're moving forward as professions and disciplines. So Chad, thank you for teaching me about athletic training and physical therapy. No. Thank you, Chad. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Sorry Yuri Samurai cannot be here. We talk about legends, we talk about sports historians. I had the chance to meet Yuri a number of times and speak to him on the phone. And I convey to you he is, since his regrets he cannot be here. But ladies and gentlemen, if you would talk about physical culture and the Olympic movement and you would go to Europe, the first name on your tongue you would hear Yuri Samurai. That man is a legend in terms of what he does in scholarship for history and the Olympic movement. So Yuri, we're going to send you this particular tape. We want you to know that we value all you do and continue to do on behalf of our college, on behalf of the Olympic and cultural movement. Let's come back here. Beth and Valerie. Those are friends for life and beyond. I And remember our conversations when we were growing in the profession. And you knew it right then when you saw Beth Majette. There was something in her eyes and her voice. You knew this lady was going to go a long way. It was just a matter of getting out of her way. Just point her and get out of the way. And Beth, you did not disappoint us whatsoever. So we are proud of you and your accomplishments, and we're proud to have a small part in each directing you, but great job, and we're so proud of you. Come back. What can I say about Al and Dee, where in this case, it's Dee's night? When you talk about our college, your college being on the map and being known for something, a point, the tip of the sword is fighting child obesity within the state of West Virginia. And who was at the forefront of that fight? Al and Dee Ware. And Dee, I want to thank you for a number of things. First, the Stansbury Hall Loft would not have happened had it not been for Al and Dee, and particularly Dee Ware taking that mantle and saying, we need to do something at Stansbury Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've not been down there, we're fortunate to have Nancy Nalacola to lead us. We're fortunate to have equipment that's state of the art. The equipment is just the part. It's the people who lead and direct that program and really make the difference. And Dee, you have made a difference, not in just our college, but statewide. But through Choosy Kids and Linda Carson, now Eloise Elliott, your families make a contact and commitment across the country. So Dee, I want to thank you for your friendship, more importantly, what you're doing to fight this childhood obesity epidemic in the United States. So thank you, Dee, for your friendship and all you continue to do. It is truly remarkable. With that note, I would now ask all of the previous Hall of Fame inductees of our college, would you please stand and be recognized, and let's thank you again for your years of service commitment. So all of the previous Hall of Fame inductees, would you please stand and say thank you for all you have done for our college. Now I get that special time. It's called the Special Recognition Award. We'll place it up here. This particular award, called the Dean Service Award, is bestowed to an individual or an organization that's gone above and beyond the call of duty to provide service to our college, to our faculty, staff, and students. Someone who truly cherished the mission of service, an engaged professional. This year's recipient, please, if you'll come forward, Mary Weichel. Why this lady? Why this time? Well, we won't recognize her for being in the Hall of Fame, because she is. We won't recognize her for being an outstanding aquatics director, therapist, author. She is. We'll recognize her for her leadership, particularly in the last 2 years as the chair of our visiting committee. Under her leadership, here's what's happened. Here's how she changed the course of the visiting committee. Okay? She decided to institute a mentoring program whereby our faculty would work with the visiting committee, and the visiting committee work with the students. And the idea is to make sure our students are placed in the appropriate jobs. I cannot tell you the hours she put into developing that program. It's paying off. Our students are getting jobs, they're working with the faculty members, they're truly engaged. What else did she do? She also instituted that very, very famous lecture section. Now, not only did she do that, Ferris is picked up and carried with it. Okay? She has given so many hours. Every year during graduation, the last 2 years, the chair of the visiting committee is asked to give the commencement address, the charge to the alumni. Who drove up from Northern Virginia to do that? Mary Weichel. All the alumni functions we held in the Washington, D.C. area with Chuck Halley, okay, with Sam Huff. Oh, that was a good one. We're still laughing. But she was always there. So I'll be on the call of duty, but again, this type of love and passion for our college. So ladies and gentlemen, the 2010 Service Award recipient, Mary Weichel. Mary. Thank you.
The night is getting long, so I will be very brief for a change. First of all, my congratulations to all the inductees tonight. What a wonderful, wonderful group we have. And also to all those who have been inducted in previous years. I congratulate all of you. I would be remiss if I did not recognize my other half, who actually took the day to come with me today, Ken, back there in the back. And he is also an alumni and one of the distinguished alumni of the university. He and Al Ware were inducted together, so we have sort of a bond there with the Wares. But when I looked at this, I think Dean Brooks really hit on exactly what this is all about and what I feel is so important. It's about relationships, and it's not about what any one of us can do. It's what we can do for others and to help others grow and become better people, how to expand in whatever we do. We want to develop the students, we want to develop the faculty, we want to build them up. Positive has to be a very important word in our vocabulary. Because I am very interested in mentoring, and part of that is because of Ken continues to mentor me, because otherwise I would fall flat on my face. But flying back on the plane recently from Colorado, I read a book that was out, Tony Dungy's The Mentor Leader. And the very end of it, I thought he had 7 E's that were very important. And I did take the time to write those down. It was, first of all, engage. Always be approachable. Educate, hands-on. Equip. Give them guidance for their tasks. Encourage them. Then empower them. Energize and elevate. Remember, we need to prepare those who are younger than we are to take our place and go on to greater things. I thank you for this award. I will tell you, when Dean Brooks called me, he called me about noon on this one day, and I was having one of the most terrible days of my life. It was one of those where I almost didn't answer the phone because I was afraid it was going to be another phone call giving me another challenge. And I can tell you it really made a difference that day. I thank you. I thank all of you.
Thank you very much. Right here, man. Yay. Some closing remarks. First of all, I cannot close without mentioning Coach Gil Catlett. We celebrated the 50th anniversary of our college several years ago, and included Jerry West and Chuck Howley and Rod Thorne, Louise Quackenbush, Dean Montemelo. We said we needed someone to be a master of ceremonies. Who could we get to do that? Coach Gil Catlett. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen that videotape, that production, it's probably the best, by far, presentation program this university's ever run. But you know what they all talked about? The common thread was this love for the state of West Virginia and the love for Western University. So Coach Catlett, thank you for leading that program. It was an excellent program. People are still talking about it today. It's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. We need to recognize some people. First of all, let's thank Kim Camion for all of our hard work for making this evening happen. Kim.